And then it says, okay, so it's the next day, and I say, today I woke up feeling weirder than usual. I was aware that we were parked in an indoor lot adjacent to the stadium where the Seahawks play, but because it was almost noon and everyone else was off the bus, I was completely disoriented and not quite ready for the day, which happens a lot on any tour. I got myself together and headed towards these big doors that looked like they went into somewhere. Luckily, I saw the handy from Boston to Berkeley tour placard, letting me know where the tour rooms, the dressing rooms, catering, production, all that stuff were. All but the dressing room I was getting. Then when I finally found, all but the dressing room that I that I was in. Then when I finally found it, the door was locked. Turned out that a few people used my room for showers because it was one of the only private showers in the building. All the rest are basically Seahawks locker rooms. This was kind of we saw this a few times on this tour. Dropkick's TM Evan was the last one to use a shower and let me in. I dropped off my stuff and went looking for food. They had mostly Mexican-style food, and it was too early for me for that, so I put together a cheese and veggie sandwich and small salad and sat down at a table where eventually Matt Freeman, Lars, and Al Barr joined me. And it was a really fun conversation because I've met Matt years and years back when he was in Operation Ivy. I knew from all that crew. I knew Tim just from the old Berkeley days, from Operation Ivy. Even like after Operation Ivy broke up, we kind of hung out a few times. I'd see him at Blondie's Pizza down on Telegraph. He came up to Sacramento and we hung out. Lint, I don't call him Lint anymore, but Tim was always like just a presence in that part of the world. But I never got to know Matt, and it was fun talking with him. Lawrence has always been friendly, super sweet guy. He's always been just very, takes time to say hi and check in, and always just been a wonderful guy. Al Barr from Dropkicks is one of my favorite guys in the punk rock scene. Very thoughtful and intelligent and just a good guy. Always fun to, very earnest, and I like that about him. So it was a nice conversation, and I think it was the first time I kind of felt not accepted, but just like, from their perspective, like it would be easy to be there. Like once again, they're this fucking touring machine that's been out on the road forever, and these guys are huge. They play nothing but big places, and they're at that level that I am not even close to. And I'm not self-deprecating. I'm not trying to put myself down. It is just what it is, and I'm proud and fiercely happy with anything that I've been able to accomplish in my punk rock life with 7 Seconds and whatnot. But it is a definite quite a few steps up the ladder, and it's interesting to view it from the outside. But when you're sort of on the inside, all of a sudden, it's a whole different thing. And I remember trying to write about it, and I remember trying to talk to friends about it, and I just felt like I couldn't quite nail it for some reason. So it was nice to be able to hang out with these guys and just kind of get a feel for me being a part of this tour. They made me feel very, very welcome, which was great. Everybody, the musicians, the managers, the staff, the booking people, everybody was very cool. We had an interesting conversation, mostly about politics and the current state of America. Turns out that Al Barr is a very passionate believer in the right to bear arms, which I don't know if I ever thought about that or not. And then I said some other things here that were just kind of stuff out the top of my head that I'm not going to share because it's just personal stuff. But just in the conversation we had, I realized I was talking to him about the right to bear arms, and I'm not anti-gun, by the way. I've owned guns. I'm kind of the camp where I believe that liberals should embrace the thought of being armed. Maybe not all over the streets, but I think the idea of it, I don't know that we'll ever come to a place where there's a civil war between the wingnuts and the libs, and we're going to need, to fight each other with guns and stuff. Hopefully not. But, I could see it happening in this day and age, and I would have no problems, doing whatever it takes to protect my people and myself. It's just, that's how I am. So we kind of got into a discussion about that, and that's kind of a personal thing, so I don't want to share that. But anyway, it was fun to converse with these dudes. Went back to my dressing room and restrung my guitar before settling in with some internet action. This is where it gets cute. At some point, I went walking around and ran into Tim and Lars in the hallway, who asked me if I saw the rescued puppies and kittens in the VIP room. Apparently, there was a local animal rescue organization that probably wanted to get more views and get more traction with the public, and so they figured if they connect, I'm guessing this, somehow they got linked up with this tour, and it was kind of a mutual promotional thing. So there's a VIP room that is just filled with kittens and puppies, just adorable little things. When I said that I didn't even know where the VIP room was, they escorted me to it, and lo and behold, puppies and kitties running all over the place with big, tough, tattooed punk rock dudes happily holding and playing with them. It was one of the most adorable things I'd ever seen on tour. Just gleefully, everybody's talking baby talk, and we were all just falling in love. It was very sweet. Definitely a break from the usual tour shenanigans. I said there are already many poignant images stuck in my head from this tour, but watching big dudes freaking out over puppies and kittens is at the very top of the list of them. It's true. The show was awesome. My set was warm and friendly, and people actually sang with me on "Leave a Light On," which is always one of my favorite things. That song in particular, probably my favorite set of the tour. Obviously, everyone else killed it, even though the venue is massive. Each band managed to make the place feel like a small, hot, sweaty club, and the crowd was ecstatic. I remember thinking that about Rancid set every night. They would be playing out in front of 5,000 people, 7,000 people, and maybe I'll talk about the contrast now. Dropkick Murphys are incredible. Great fucking live band, great songs, great people. During that tour, they had this massive light show. It rivaled anything I've ever seen in, like, seeing Judas Priest or fucking whoever. Just crazy. And these huge huge visual images in the back. It was very, very high tech, very, very professional, and it worked perfectly with what they were doing. But I remember watching them, and I enjoyed watching them more from the side because I wasn't as distracted by the lights and the visuals sometimes I'd go way out to the back of the venue just to watch, to see how it sounded and looked, and it was almost distracting for me personally. With Rancid, they just had this one big visual backdrop. It just said Rancid with a sort of a background of maybe the San Francisco skyline in the back, something like that. Just very, very low, high contrast but dark colors and stuff. And it was just, that's it. I don't think they didn't move around a lot. They didn't change the graphics. It was just the same. And they just would get out and rock their songs. And look, arguably, not even arguably, in my world, Rancid are one of the top bands. I've always been a fan from day one. I still think they make great fucking records when they do make records. Untouchable as a live band. And watching them just about every night was just so easy for me because it connected me with my California roots, my love for the Bay Area, just that time, I remember just driving around listening to Rancid, 7 Seconds driving around on tour listening to, whatever, let's go, whatever. And just feeling like this is just music for us, even though it wasn't music for us. It was music for a younger generation probably, but we related to it. I don't want to go too overboard. But yeah, it was just, I remember thinking every night that whenever I watched Rancid, they could have been playing at a tiny little club, or they could have been playing at these fucking arenas or in this tiny club, and it would have been the same energy, which is great. Anyway, after the show, I showered, then loaded up on soft drinks and headed, honey, Allison, I hope you didn't hear that part, and I headed for the bus. It's a nice feeling to know that you have a nice, clean, comfortable place to come back to every night, even if it's moving 70 miles per hour down a highway for 8 hours straight. And then we had a 12-hour drive. We had a day off, and it was a funny thing because I remember thinking I knew we were going to stop for the night once we got into Redding, California. That was going to be where we stopped. We'd stop at a hotel. Everybody would get out and go to their rooms. I would be on the bus, but I'd be stuck in Redding, California for a number of hours. Now, and I don't mean to shit on Redding. I've been to Redding. I've played up in Redding. It's a lovely city. But it's not, it's Redding is part of it's in a part of California that they call the state of Jefferson. Pretty right wing, a lot of those parts up in that part of California. And I've never had I've had some fun shows there. I know punk rockers from Redding that are lovely, lovely, lovely. But the city never seems welcoming, in any way. You go to a store and people are kind of like not like happy. I remember the day, so we go there. I ended up sleeping in. I get out of the bus. Everybody's gone, of course, in the hotel. I get up, walk out the bus door, and it's 104 degrees. Just fucking dry, shitty heat. It hit me like a brick. I was like, fuck this. I tried to text the one or two people that I know in the area. I was just like, hey man, let's go. I'm always the worst. Like, instead of texting them or calling them days in advance, I wait to the last minute. Hey, you want to get coffee? I'm in town. It didn't work out. I knew I had to go to a FedEx print to get some stuff printed out, and I was starving, and I wanted, it's the weirdest thing, I wanted salad. I wanted to eat mounds of lettuce, cucumbers, tomatoes. I wanted salad. And so I thought there's got to be some kind of a buffet style restaurant. And I looked it up. There's a home style buffet, which is funny because you pay $12 and hey, I'll get the roast beef. I'll get the this or that. Well, I don't eat meat. So it was like $12 worth of just fucking saladry. And is saladry a word? Salad and probably some kind of dessert, like a little bowl of ice cream. Who knows? But I just wanted salad. My body was telling me you've got to fucking eat green. So I did. I went walking around in the 104-degree heat. It was miserable. There was a little bit of a wind, so it was hot wind. I remember finding a spot like in grass that was shaded, and I laid down in the grass, and I was kind of I think I was sketching, to be honest with you. And there was just this feeling of just like people, I don't know, it was unfriendly. I didn't like it. It was not a good place to have a day off. And so I didn't eat well that night. It was just like, probably got a pizza or something. So anyway, I ended up staying on the bus until like 1 or 2 a.m. And then the idea was we're going to drive. We'd have a bus call around, I think it was 2 a.m. Everybody would get back on the bus, and then we would drive down south. It was a weird zigzag part of the tour. Ideally, it would have been cool to just go to Sacramento. I could have spent the night with my wife and hung out with the dogs. But no, we stay in Redding for hours, and then we leave super early in Friday morning, the next morning, for an all-night drive to Avila Beach, which is, I believe, near San Luis Obispo in California. The venue was right on the water. There's like this, you could see the ocean, as I recall. It was a big body of water. I'm assuming it was the ocean because it's right there. It was kind of a resorty place, like hotels, and there might have been some like, one of those massive driving ranges nearby. I don't know. It was just very resort-like, golf courses and people in fancy clothes or whatever. Not, of course, the concert attenders, but just like attenders, the concert attendees. But it was a weird vibe. And I remember getting off the bus and going over and back into catering. Ended up hanging out with Lars and Al and Matt. We had more talk. Remember we talked about X, the band X. And they had asked me about my experience with Exene. I'd done the tour with her a few years prior to that, and it was an interesting conversation, to say the least. But my set was marred from, as far as I'm concerned. I got up, and there was tons of people already there. I don't recall getting a bad response, but I remember just the sun was kind of beaming off the side of my head, and it just didn't feel good. It was too much daylight is what I wrote. Too much daylight is what I wrote. Too hot, too bright, and I just couldn't get into the mood of it. Now, there's a side note to this fucking part of the tour. I that night after this show, and I don't even recall if I watched the other bands that night. I think I wandered off and sat on the beach for a little while, and I probably came back and watched some bands, but I don't recall anything. Nothing stood out of my mind. But I remember I got on Instagram, I think, and I was tagged by somebody who had done a review of that show, and made a point to really go after me. They said, Rancid, Dropkick Murphys are great, Selector awesome, but what the fuck were they thinking of putting Kevin Seconds on the bill? And the take was the way that it was a woman, and the way the woman was painting it was like, poor washed up Kevin Seconds probably begged to get on this tour. Nobody is interested in what he's doing anymore. Nobody's even interested in 7 Second anymore. She was really biting, very, very mean-spirited and almost personal. I really, truly thought, is this somebody I know? Is this somebody that I fucking broke their heart at some point or let down? Like, why is she, this is such vitriolic bullshit. And a lot of the times I'm pretty good at ignoring it. I'm just like, if I dip my toes in there, it's going to go nowhere and it's just going to get ugly. But I was also in a kind of the mood to do it. And I also was watching other people kind of go to her Instagram, friends and fans of mine, and kind of tearing into her. And that just fueled her more. She was like, oh, now Kevin's sending his fucking mob to troll me and bully me and all this other shit. So I posted, I said, I was trying to be funny, and I don't remember exactly what I said. Knowing me, I never want to go in, even if I am upset about something somebody said, I never want to go in like, well, fuck you too, bitch. I always try to use humor as a way to deflate or just kind of keep it on a level, keep it on level ground. We don't want it to get too elevated. There's always time for that later, but I didn't really have any interest in any of that at all. And so, she just, but no matter what I said, she was like, look at you, what a fucking loser. Why would you even care? Look at you responding. And true, I was responding. She did tag me, so that's what got my attention. Anyway, it went back and forth for probably a couple of days, and it was just ludicrous. I realized that she was getting off on the attention, first of all. She even the folks that were dragging her through the mud because they love me or were sticking up for me or defending me, she loved all that attention. She was getting more people viewing her. I remember looking to see her, like, she hardly had any followers, she hardly had any interaction. It was just kind of like no comments. She was just thrilled that she was getting people to come over to her Instagram and fucking comment, and at that point it was just like, this is going nowhere. I did get a good song out of it, and who knows, maybe again I'll share that. I really do need to share these songs with you guys somehow. Maybe I'll figure out a way to have a side road that you can go and listen to this stuff on my Bandcamp page, because it was kind of it's almost like a mini rock opera, the way that I sort of wrote around this tour. That was it. I don't have any real good things to say about that particular show, so I'm sorry if you live in that area or if you had a great time. I hope you did, and I hope that if you like my set, I hope these words don't hurt your feelings or something. But all right, so then we're coming home. We're gonna drive. We're coming to my home. We're driving to Sacramento. We're not done with the tour. We're just driving to Sacramento for the Sacramento show. I was on the greatest mood that entire day. I'll never forget. I just felt good, and I'm home. I get to see my wife. I get to see my dogs and cats. I get to sleep in my bed, see some friends, and then I have a show at the most legendary venue in my mind in Sacramento, which is the Memorial Auditorium. And it's legendary because when I was a kid, all my first concerts were at the Memorial. My mom, when she was a kid, when she graduated high school, they had the graduation party there. It's just been around forever. So I think since 1920, 25, something like that. they used to have roller derby matches, wrestling, not millions, but thousands of, Rolling Stones played there. Keith Richards got electrocuted. Just it's a legendary place, and it's a beautiful building right in the middle of downtown Sacramento. I think it holds like 4,000, 4,500 people. That show, like I said earlier, sold out first, so there was that. I knew the show was going to be a rager. It was one of the few enclosed arenas. It wasn't our venues. It wasn't in a parking lot or in a baseball field. It was like, just a big auditorium. And I've been there a number of times, but I've never played a show there. And so I remember feeling very connected to the idea that I wished my mom had passed away months before that, that past December. And I remember thinking this would be when I would call my mom and say, "Hey Mom, I'm playing at the Memorial Auditorium." She would have loved it. It would have been one of my, "Hey Mom, I made it" kind of moments. And she would have appreciated it, but unfortunately, it was not to be. Woke up at 10 a.m. I ended up taking a lift home and showered and took a nap. Woke up disoriented and felt like everything beneath my feet was moving, which is a common thing when you're traveling that much. I drove to the memorial, kind of mind blown at the whole deal. Just being there. I have to say, and this is one of the funniest things that I've ever done. I was so maybe nervous, but I was so antsy to just get things rolling that I couldn't sleep anymore. Allison was at work. There was nothing I could do, so I went to work. I got online and I was doing food delivery stuff. I think for Grubhub or DoorDash, one of the two. And I decided, fuck it, I'll go out for an hour and make a few bucks. So I did. I went out, turned my driver app on, and I went and did some food delivery. And I remember going to to pick up food at a sandwich shop downtown, and a couple guys are eating, and they're like, "Hey Kevin, what are you doing? Aren't you playing a show tonight at the Memorial?" And I was like, "I sure am, yeah." And they're like, "What are you doing out working?" And I was like, "Hey, man's got to make a living." So I worked the day of a show, which was ridiculous, but it was just kind of fun. Grabbed coffee, ran into some friends. It was just nice running into friends all day long. I was running into people out and about who were going to the show, and everybody was patting me on the back saying, "Attaboy, go kill him, Kev." And more importantly, I knew Allison would be there, and that was very special. We had some dear friends with us. I was able to get everybody in backstage. Again, I had my own little dressing room. It was kind of funny. And there was just a really good vibe, like everywhere that night. And it was just nice because it's hometown. No matter what, I know I'm playing in front of my people, and people were going to dig it. And I knew that, Rancid kills in Sacramento, Dropkick Murphy, same thing. So it was just a very special thing. My set was great. I remember just being lit by bright white light. I think maybe every night I was. I never really noticed lights when I'm playing, but I've seen photos of it since then, and it looks just like big white lights. And you can see Allison on the sides taking photos. I got one particular photo that someone took of her standing on the side with her camera, just smiling, beaming at me, and it's just one of my favorite photos ever of her. I had a great set. It was probably my favorite set of the whole tour. I kind of went back and dried off. Dropkicks played and did a fucking great shit. The selectors were amazing. Dropkicks played fucking excellent. Rancid got up, and I was like, I wanted to see them play the hometown. So Al and I and friends stood on the side and watched. And it was just Sacramento went off. And at some point, Tim called me out to sing with them. They were doing If the Kids United, the Sham 69 song. And I was, all of a sudden I got shy. I'm always weirded out when people ask me to come and sing during their moment, but I had heard that I had missed a couple opportunities. I'd go back and take a shower, and then Lars was trying to call me on stage, and I missed it. And I didn't want to do that, especially hometown. So I jumped up there and sang with them. And it was great. I got to spend the night with Allison, sleep in my bed, hang out with our dogs, got to check in with Hank. He was doing better. He was on an upswing, which was really nice. Kissed him on his big old fucking dog head, and I told him, hang in there and stay strong and don't go away until I get home at least. And then, the next day it was just, it was almost not quite as fucking amazing or as intense, but it was pretty fucking great. It's in the Bay Area. We're going to Berkeley. We're playing at the Greek Theater. The Greek Theater, for those that don't know, is just this beautiful venue. It's like set up on the college campus of Berkeley, UC Berkeley. It's kind of up on this little mountainous hill area, and they basically did is they carved into this hill. And then at the bottom of it, they built a stage and then seating that goes up. So, when you're on stage and you're looking out at the crowd, you see this ground level crowd, like if they were on the floor. But then you see these rising seats that go way up higher. And so you're looking up at people, it looks like a mile away. It's not, but it's pretty breathtaking. And I've been to a number of shows at Berkeley, at the Greek. I've seen Brian Wilson. I saw White Stripes. I think way back in the day, I think I saw Tom Petty. I've seen numerous shows there over the years, but never played there. So that was also very special. I had a great set. A lot of friends were there. Al came down from that. Some friends of ours came down as well. Kepi Gulli was there. It was cool to hang out with him. He was cheering me on. Our friends from Sacramento, some friends of ours from Sacramento, Tom, Lisa, and Christine. Robert Taylor is an old longtime buddy of mine. He lives down in the not Orange County, the East Bay. He came out, so it was good to see familiar faces. Basically, it was pretty excellent. What was really cool is that I ran into two old friends from kind of the Gilman days and Maximum Rock and Roll. Kamala Parks, who just was great early on, was just a really super wonderful person. We'd stay at the Maximum Rock and Roll house and hang out with Kamala, and she'd take us out to go get burritos and stuff. Just a really fun girl. And Jesse Townley, who, was a legend. He's been around the East Bay punk scene forever. So I got to hang out with them a little bit and catch up. I don't know. I kind of just remember wandering around. I remember the selector brought up, I'm forgetting his name. He's one of the front guys from the Specials, and everybody freaked out. And they were amazing that night. That was probably one of my favorite shows that they played. Dropkick Murphy's great. Of course, Rancid, playing in the East Bay, it's a pretty special fucking thing. And I'm sure, they prior to that show, they played with Metallica at this giant stadium or something like that. So they've played at bigger places, but just seeing them at this place, like right in their old neighborhood, was just pretty fucking surreal and incredible. And they just killed it. The Bay, it's nighttime, lights go down, the Bay fucking air is hitting you. It's colder but beautiful, and you could smell it. It was like magical. And I hate getting corny, but it was really something. I remember the whole crowd singing East Bay Nights, and just all the great hits that they have, and it just was tremendous. I was honored to be a part of it. We had, what happened? Let me go back to my notes. Rancid set was insane. Lars gave me shit on stage about 99 red balloons. I don't remember that. Afterwards, we drove to Saturn Cafe for late dinner with Al and the Sac crew. Yeah, there used to be. I don't think it's there anymore, but Saturn Cafe, I don't know if it's all veggie, vegan, but they have a huge veggie menu, and it was a great place. And I remember just being so happy that I got to hang out with my homies, my wife, and my homies, and eat, and just before I had to go back to the bus and get on it. And that's basically what I did. Kissed Al goodbye, good night. She took back off home to Sacramento. I can't speak. And we drove to Pasadena. I don't remember this. We had a day off. We drove to Pasadena. I walked around, spent some time at a Starbucks on my laptop, ate at Del Taco. Boy, just good health. Spent a lot of time on the bus alone. One of the crew guys offered me a shower in his room. I don't remember any of this. And then it was basically, we just did the night drive to Arizona. The next show was in Chandler, Arizona. And I don't have much to say about this. Not a lot of good. I will say that I watched the entire Selector set for the very first time, the whole set, and they were incredible. They just no matter what, delivered. And again, like I've said this, they were just such nice people and great musicians and stuff, and great songs, and the crowd loved it. It was just a perfect band to see just before Dropkicks or Rancid. But the vibe of this place, it was essentially, let me see if I got notes. First of all, so I woke up and could tell it was boiling outside. This is Arizona. Bus AC kept going on and off, which you don't want when it's fucking 110 degrees out. I got up and walked around. It was in a rodeo arena, another fucking weird outdoor rodeo arena. I recall the venue itself was this big, massive barn, like a big metal barn looking thing that held, I mean, there was like 8,000 people there, so it was pretty huge. I guess they've done concerts there, but it just was not, it was off. It felt off. It looked off. It didn't sound right. I remember going on stage, and my notes had a decent set. Crew forgot to turn house lights down during set. So yeah, there were weird lights, just big, bold white lights that were just not fun for anybody. I don't remember watching either Dropkick or Rancid. I just wanted a shower. I went and snuck in a shower. I remember seeing Roger from Agnostic Front was down there, said hi to him. Rich Labatt, who was in Instead, hung out with him. That was about it. Those were the most memorable things. Like, I don't remember much about the show. It was just kind of a funky vibe, I have to say. We had a night drive to San Diego, another day off. I woke up to the bus driver. The bus driver's name was Kevin, and he and I got along really well. I think it was just because, I like talking with the crew. I like hanging out with the folks that are doing all the real work behind the scenes. I get to hang out with, musicians and creative people all the time, and I love it. But it's nice to be able to hang out with the people that are doing all the fucking grunt work and getting us to where we need to go. So Kevin and I bonded for some reason. We went out a couple times to grab coffee. He was always, "Hey, let me buy you a beer." I was like, "Nah, I don't drink." He had great stories. Oh, these bus drivers are great. They always have stories about all the bands, and most of them have driven punk bands, classic rock bands, metal bands, hip hop bands, country artists, like all of these, but pop, Taylor Swift. They've driven everybody. So they've got to be a little fucking open-minded and maybe a little crazy, but Kevin was really cool. I remember, so I said, woke up to bus driver Kev yelling my name to see if I was still in bed. I don't know what that means. Spent all morning and much of the afternoon in the bunk. That's right. I just decided to stay in. I think I was just feeling the need to catch up on sleep, and I didn't feel like being out anywhere. So, San Diego's lovely, but I didn't know much. I didn't really know where we were. We were the venue itself was literally the San Diego Padres Stadium. The venue was just outside of it in this kind of a park that they had adjacent to the stadium. What was cool about that, the fun part, there's a few cool things. Number one, so we're in the next day. We're in San Diego. It's gig day. Steve Soto's there. My buddy, tour mate, just one of my favorite guys on the whole planet. He shows up with his lovely girlfriend Stephanie, who's to this day one of my good friends, dear friends, and I was so happy to see them. I just gave them both big hugs, and I was just like, I hadn't seen Steve in a while. I missed him. We'd toured together. We really had built this nice friendship, and it was just, they were like familiar faces that I just needed to see, and so it was great. It was great seeing them. I was happy that they were there. I took them back to my green room, which was out fucking landish. All of the dressing rooms were basically the boxed sections, the little, what do you call them? There's a word for them. You pay all this fucking extra money to sit in a box, and they serve you food and beer. And I've done it a couple times. I've had friends that got comped, and they said, "Hey, you want to come to see the Kings play? We got these box seats." And I was, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And you're just sitting in a covered room, and there's like a server that comes up and asks you if you want something to drink or eat, and it's kind of nice but kind of silly. My room was one of those that had a sliding door that you opened that was basically center field of the San Diego Padres stadium. You were just boom right there, and there was just seats, and it was so surreal. I wrote a song about that. Maybe I'll play that on this podcast if you're lucky. But that was my favorite part, getting to show Steve and Stephanie, just check me out, man, and they got a kick out of it. They were both on the side of the stage cheering me on during my set. I had a fun set. I really remember having a good time with that. One other note is that, I better look him up real quick. There's a guy, let me see if I got the name right. Yes. I'm out in the parking lot, and I knew I had a friend that was on the grounds who I had gotten on the list, who we were going to see if we could maybe run off and grab coffee or something before the show started. And I just couldn't find her. We're texting, and she's texting me going, well, I'm over here at this, it says, gate, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't know the stadium and the area well enough, so I wasn't giving good directions. But on the way, I see a guy who just looked familiar to me. I knew he was a rocker. I knew he was in a band, in a rock band, but I couldn't place the name. And he sees me, and he comes walking up. He goes, hey, man, do you know how to get backstage, get to the production area? And I was like, yeah, man, follow me. And he said, he said, hey, are you, is your name Kevin? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, oh, you're from 7 Seconds. I was like, yeah. And he goes, hey, I'm Rob Flynn from fucking Machine Head. What he was in? What's the legendary band? He was in Violence, from the Bay Area. Just a legend guy from the Bay Area metal scene, and buddies with the Rancid guys and stuff. And what I really, really loved about meeting him, and I told him that, and I even had a photo taken with him, which I don't do often. Let me see if I can find the story, because I don't want to fuck it up. What I really appreciated was that at a time when Trump's in office, and the country's going, we're going civil war, everybody's feuding, and there's just like, fuck you redneck, fuck you wingnut, fuck you libtard, blah 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 blah. And I was caught up in it as well. It was really nice to see Rob Flynn had basically called out the hate and the ignorance that was so prevalent in the metal scene, and he really nailed it. And I thought it was incredibly brave. Unfortunately, I'm not. I don't remember the exact story. Let me see if I can find it. It might have had something to do with racism, or just some homophobic stuff. But he went on a limb, I thought, and took a stance against it very publicly. And I thought that was really brave. And I told him that. I said, hey man, kudos to you. That's fucking great. But other than that, it was just a great show, great night, beautiful weather, outdoors. All the bands raged. All the bands were fan-fucking-tastic. We had a, let me see where we're at here. Let me just check any extra notes before I gotta call this thing. It's already an hour and a half. We had a 1 o'clock bus call. I never did end up meeting. No, I did meet up with my friend. She finally shows up, and we got to see each other for a few minutes, and then I had to get on the bus and go. And we headed for Las Vegas. And let me see. I guess that was the next day. Yeah. So we get into Vegas. It's fucking hot as shit, of course. And I gotta say, and I don't want to bum anybody out, because there's no reason for it. Back in the early punk rock days, when 7 Seconds would go down to Vegas and play, I'm talking the early 80s, we had some of the greatest, just great shows, very underground. Kids were putting on the shows. It was just fucking DIY all the way. Some of the best shows ever. And then we started to kind of come through town, and we were playing bigger clubs. For a while, we were playing at the Huntridge Theater, which was this massive theater. We never did well on our own at that place. It was just too big for us. It was always pretty hard for us to fill a big theater of 1,000, 1,200, 1,500. It just wasn't ever our thing, even at our height, at the peak of our popularity. But there's just always been a weird thing with 7 Seconds and Vegas. And same with my solo stuff. I've gone down there a few times and played. I've had some good shows. the only time I've ever really truly had fun is during punk rock bowling, and kudos to the punk rock bowling folks for making Vegas just so much more interesting and hospitable. Now, I guess if I drank or gambled, I probably feel differently. I'm not a party guy, so I probably miss out on a lot of that. But Vegas during the day, I used to feel this way about Reno during the day. It's like, what's the point of having day in these cities? It's just ugly and blah. Yeah. At night, it's beautiful and lights and kind of sexy, and it makes sense. But during the day, nonetheless, we get to Vegas. I don't have notes on this one for whatever fucking reason. So I'm going by memory. We're playing at a place called the Downtown Event Center. It's just a big open air lot with a covered stage. And this was going to basically be the last day of official from Boston to Berkeley tour. We still had one more show in San Bernardino, but that was part of a festival called It's Not Dead. And so this was kind of the end date of just the Boston to Berkeley tour, where it was just the same bands, me and Selector, Dropkick, and Rancid. It's hot out. So they said, hey, no one go anywhere. We want to get photos of all the bands and the crew. We want to have one big tour, photo. And that was kind of fun. We got up in these bleachers and everybody was out there, and I've seen it, it's kind of funny. You can see me up at the top. And then I just wandered after I had hours to kill. I knew friends would be coming to the show later, but I wouldn't see them before. So I thought, well, coffee. I must get coffee. So I went and found the best I could find on Fremont, which was a fucking Starbucks, and got my laptop, and I was doing shit, checking in with Allison and whatnot, writing and drawing, and just waiting kind of. And I remember taking a bunch of photos on Fremont, because it was just, there's so many, even midday, there were so many crazy people in costumes and weird fucking like cartoon character costumes and masks, but they were all filthy, because they were just street performers, and they apparently could never clean these things. I don't know what maybe dry cleaning, try that. But I remember just really experiencing the sadness of it. And I ended up writing a song that day, just lyrics in my notebook, and I turned it into a song later. But it kind of personified my feelings about being in Las Vegas before a show. It's just like, what's the point of going to Las Vegas if you don't party and you're not playing? It was kind of my attitude. But the show was great. I remember friends from Southern California came out. I remember Toby and oh my God, why am I blanking? What's wrong with you, Kevin? Rusty, fuck. We're at the show, and we were hanging out and singing songs and singing Rancid songs together. There was a bunch of people, a bunch of old friends from Vegas, and just it was really nice to hang out and just kind of a celebration of like the end of this really great tour. Say goodbye to everybody, and then essentially we had we drove straight to San Bernardino, and we played at this big open park with like 4 or 5 stages throughout. It's kind of like a I don't know what it was. I don't remember exactly what the venue was. I'm trying to find it here, but it was just an all day fucking thing. I did find let me see if I can find the notes of who I played with that day. It's Not Dead 2. Okay. So the headliners there was like 2 main stages and then 2 smaller stages. On the main stage, it was like Buzzcocks, Dropkick Murphys, GBH, Good Riddance, Me First and Gimme Gimme's, Off, Rancid, The Interrupters. Then there was like a stage where Channel 3 played, Down by Law, Guttermouth, Casualties, Voodoo Glow Skulls. The stage that I played was called the Olympic stage, and I had a pretty nice spot on the bill. U.S. Bombs played first, Slaughter and the Dogs played, Reagan Youth played, Murphy's Law played. I remember getting to hang out with Jimmy G, and then I played after Murphy's Law, which acoustic. I think I was the only acoustic guy the only solo guy in this entire festival. Looking at, I think I was. And I had a fun set. It was just raggedy. My voice was shot, and it was dusty, and I just decided, fuck it. I'm not going to try to play pretty. I'm not going to try to play sweet. I'm just going to rock it out and just bang on this fucking acoustic guitar until I fucking cut my fingers open and break a string. And I ended up, I normally don't do this, but I drug out some 7-second songs just for the crowd, and they were singing with me, and it was just so much fun, and I enjoyed it. And then Bucko 9 played, and Wilhelm Scream. And my favorite part of the whole thing was just afterwards, I was done. The tour was over. I'd be flying home the next day. My friend Chris Sherry, you know him, fucking legendary artist, Descendants, and a billion other bands. He was there. My friend Rob Taylor, a friend of mine from Chicago, Rachel was there. Just good friends. We were all in that art tent. There was like a big tent. Punk Rock and Paintbrushes were doing an exhibit. I didn't have any art in it, like an idiot. But it was like the one place you could kind of go in the shade, and it was really fairly cool. And just kind of hanging out there all day, going and sneaking and seeing a band or two coming back, and drinking water and just chilling and hanging out with my friends. And that was it. We were done. The next day, it was just a clusterfuck of getting the bus driver driving us all to the airport and getting us to the gate. And I remember got to my gate, said goodbye to everybody, got to my gate, got ready for the flight. And as I'm standing in line, I see there's a woman that's chattering. She's being really obnoxious, just saying, just loud and kind of East Coast voice and just kind of being rude. And she's with a guy, kind of tall looking guy that's right in front of me. And I just see the back of him. I didn't see who he was or anything at first. And then she kind of walks off, like maybe she went to the restroom, and he turns around and kind of makes eye contact with me and then turns back around. And I fucking realize that it's Andy Bernard from the Office, Ed Helms. And I was like, holy shit. I didn't say anything. I should have, because that would have been a cool, but he looked kind of annoyed himself. So I don't know, whoever, maybe this was a friend, or I don't know if it's his wife or girlfriend or just his sister, but she was just real loud. I remember that. So I get on the plane. It's a quick trip, an hour and a half from LA. And then I get into the SAC airport. We fly in, get up to the gate. I get out, and as I'm coming through the tunnel to get in onto the terminal, I see a group of dudes, older dudes, sitting in a big lump of humanity right as you walk in. And instantly my eyes key in to one guy in the middle, and I'm like, holy shit, he's an actor. I know this guy. Wait, no, hold on a second. Why am I... And then it dawns on me, it's fucking Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys. Brian fucking Wilson, right? He's an idol of mine. And I'm so bad at this stuff. It's one of the reasons I don't approach celebrities. I never ask for autographs or selfies. I have very rarely. He would have been somebody that I would have wanted to have sign something if I had anything to sign. But he just looked so... I'm ready to get on a fucking plane. I don't want to be fucked with. And I just didn't I didn't have the heart. I did, however, sneak around a pole and take a quick surveillance shot or two of him and his group. And in the group was Blondie Chaplin. He was in the Beach Boys in the 70s. He sang, Sail on Sailor. Sail on, sail on, sailor. I recognized him, and then just band members and stuff, but it was pretty cool. I remember just getting my stuff, catching a lift. It's a beautiful day in Sacramento. It's hot as shit. I was happy to be home. The tour was successful. I was treated very, very well, respectfully and lovingly. I made good money. I was fed. I got to play in front of more people than I had ever played on an entire tour. And it was shortly thereafter that I realized that my time as a solo performer, a touring performer, was coming to a halt. That this tour had signified, my involvement in the tour just signified this. It was so crystal clear in my mind and in my heart. I was just like, if Steve Soto said, hey, Kev, let's go tour. We were talking about doing a tour, by the way. and going back to Europe. He's like one of the few people that I just would have said, okay, for sure, I'll do that. But there really wasn't any other crazy pull to go out on the road and do what I had done for up until that point, every year, many times a year. It just felt like I've done all I need to do. I can't top this. There's no way. I'll never be able to go get in my van or fly somewhere and get in a rental car and drive fucking all night by myself and pull over and sleep for 20 minutes or whatever and eat shitty food at truck stops and shower at truck stops, and if I'm lucky, get a place to stay with a friend in somewhere and get, just pull up to some small venue where the promoter just didn't do a very good job promoting, or people just aren't interested in seeing Kevin Seconds play solo live. And lucky if I play in front of 20 people and like 10 of them are excited about it, making crappy money fairly, and just the same thing. I don't mean to portray this all in a negative light, because I've had great joy in all of this as well, but I just knew. I remember telling Allison, I don't think I have to do this anymore. It almost made more sense at that moment to either try and do more art and try to live as a successful artist, and or do more driving work, do some delivery work, maybe buckle down and get a real job where I get fucking healthcare coverage and I get stuff taken care of that I need to get stuff taken care of, and live my life knowing that, hey, you know what? I've had a great fucking life. I've done more than I ever thought I would. I've accomplished more than people will ever think about. I've traveled the world. I've met amazing people that are my friends. I've eaten great food. I've had sex in weird spots, weird places. I mean, all of the things that are on my checklist they've been checked a few times. And so it just was like, it wasn't a depressing moment. It got a little sadder later because I realized, oh shit, I don't have a degree. I don't have great job skills because I've been traveling with a punk band most of my life. But it gave me hope that I had accomplished what I needed to accomplish, and anything from then at that point on would just be gravy. I wouldn't just say yes to every show. I would be very picky, and I am now. Like people ask me all the time, "You want to do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'd like to." And then I think about it, and I'm like, "No, because you're gonna, you can't pay me $50 and expect me to. You can't even pay me $100. I need at least $120. But all jokes aside, I just was very defining. It was a very defining moment. I remember talking to Steve Soto after that, and I said, I'm not trying to put pressure on you, but the only person, besides my wife, Allison, the only person that I really want to go out on the road with, the only reason for me to go out on the road is if you and I are traveling together, maybe with another singer-songwriter friend from the punk scene. We had talked about trying to do this more often and bring some people that we love and admire, Xander Schloss, if he was into it, Russ Rankin, if he was into it, just people that we loved who are from our scene who do this sort of solo singer-songwriter thing, and just make it more of a traveling tour together. But I said, I'll do it if I get to travel with you and you and I get to sit on stage together and trade songs and trade quips and sing on each other's songs. Other than that, I've done it, so... but thank you for listening. It's a long-winded. I didn't expect to go over almost an hour and 45 minutes. I might have to break this up into 2 parts. But thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it. Thank you to all of those who have purchased art in recent weeks. It's incredible. I appreciate it, and it helps me do my life, and it helps me keep doing the things that I love to do. For those of you possibly interested, you can always, if you feel like tipping me, you can always do that through PayPal, rivingloomarts at gmail.com, rivingloomarts, RIVINGLOOMART at gmail.com. I hope I said that right. And or you can Venmo me at Kevin Seconds, and I think the same with the cash, but only if you got it, and I don't care if you don't. All right, you guys, be well. Thank you. Love to all of you. I have a Band-Aid on my little hurt finger. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, be well. Thanks.